Hello, anybody there?
Resume recording.
Got it.
So I am calling the meeting of the Shutesbury Selectboard to order at 5:34 p.m. The first item on the agenda is for public comment. So I see we have a couple of people in the audience. Do either of you want to make a comment this evening? You just raise your hand if you do. Miriam?
Yeah, this came up at a Conservation Commission meeting last week, and I guess maybe Mary was going to ask the same question. I think there was some discussion about LWAC having a joint meeting with the Select Board, and I'm just wondering if there's a anticipated date for that.
September 14th, I believe, yeah.
September 14th? Okay, great. All right, thanks.
Is that an evening meeting, I assume?
5:30, yes.
Okay.
I
That's the
believe.
day I come back. Okay. Okay.
Should we schedule it later, Rita?
No, I
Or-
think, let me just double check on my flight, but I'm pretty sure we're leaving around noon. So it should
That
be
sounds right
fine.
if it's that same flight that I used to take to Minneapolis.
Yeah.
It's sort of the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm 95% sure it's fine, but I'll double check after I get off this meeting. So does that work, Miriam, then for you or the Conservation Commission?
It's not great for me because there's a conference I'm going to, but if I can make it, I will.
Okay, all right. And Mary, did you have anything that you wanted to check in with us about?
No, I was
Okay.
not, thank you.
Okay, great. All right, thanks. So tonight, the primary item on the agenda is just meeting with Walter Tibbetts, our fire chief. And we'll get a PFAS update from Becky and town administrator updates, and then Melissa, if there's anything new on your front.
Well, I can give it to you now. We're just waiting. So I'm still waiting for the,
Still waiting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
unfortunately, nothing exciting.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
It's
Since
sometimes
last
not
Wednesday.
sometimes not exciting is a good thing.
Yeah, I will take that after this week so far.
I'll bet.
Yeah.
Okay, so anything new on PFAS, Becky, that you wanted to share with us?
I did have another update from Capri Shaw, DEP. They have gotten a number of test results back, but for the most part, they're low in the new rounds. They have scheduled a few more, they've scheduled testing, I believe, for the 9th of September of about 4 more places. We got results back from the fire department and the highway. The fire, as we suspected, is very high. I'm sorry, did we meet after we got the results? from
Yes,
Mountain?
yes. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So we
Yes.
expected that, but there's a number that are very low and some that are 0 that have come back, which is a good thing. She mails out letters when that's the situation. So those folks, if you haven't gotten an update yet from her, it might be good news. So she mails them out.
Okay.
So we still, the rings are about what they were. They have not gotten larger. It's not spreading out from the fire department. The town hall reading was 4.5, which is very minimal. It's
Yeah.
below an action level. And the same was true for a couple other people on Leverett Road, closer to the town hall. So some of the news has been better in the last week. We're still searching for funding to help people with filters. I know 3 people in town, 3 households got filters last week, and the Valentines are still waiting for theirs. But I hope they will have it before the end of the week.
Okay, all right, great. We have a few extra minutes before when Walter hasn't joined us yet. So do you want to do any other town administrator updates, Becky? I know we had
Sure.
some news about the culvert.
The culvert news is not good. It's not bad yet either, but we do not have a definite start date. We did receive the concrete structure date, which will be September 29th. I believe it's the end of the month, the 28th or 29th. It should be delivered. They could have started on schedule with that news, but the problem now is National Grid. I have written to our representative at National Grid and really pushed him to do whatever he can on his end and alerted him to the seriousness of the delay. The engineer for 3 months has been trying to get this done, and it's just been a complete runaround.
And this is
it's
because
essential-
poles have to be moved?
There's only one pole that has to be moved. It was very simple, and they can't start excavation until it's moved. So it's paramount that it get moved timely. And it seemed like really close to being moved about 10 days ago, and then it fell through, and now we're getting another story. So that's my main priority, is to push National Grid along with Matt to get this done. Everything else seems to be in order. Detour signs are ready to go. So hopefully we'll get a break this week and get some news on that front.
So you're working with the engineer then to try to get National Grid moving on this?
Yep.
Is that, yeah, okay. All right, anything else?
Lot 032 has, we've got into the dumps this week, the 2 different piles that are on the 4-acre site. The highway department rented an excavator and they had to get in quite a ways to clear and had to cut down a couple trees to get at the piles, but they've gotten the excavator in. It's a lot of household trash. So even though we had pickup, they reported there were bags of trash, household trash dumped out there, a lot of broken cans, a lot of recyclables, but now rusted out cans and broken glass that they have been loading up into the dumpster. And the dumpster is now full, and we have to have it taken away to continue on to the third dump site. The second site, well, 1, 2, 3, the 4th dump site, which is a little behind where they are now. So it's coming along, and luckily the rain has held off, so no trucks have gotten stuck out there.
How far back are those dump piles in from the, like where the building was? They're
Maybe 100 feet. It's it's not right there. You have to walk a ways.
oh, okay.
But there's a rock wall, and then there was metal fencing, the twisted cattle type fencing. There was some of that out there as well. I don't know if they had animals at one point, but that's that kind of marks the second set of piles. And so they took down all the nasty fencing as they moved along. And
Okay.
To report on the cooling station, we did open up for the high humid 85-degree days. Chris O'Neill installed an air conditioner downstairs so we could be sure that if it was made use of, it was cool. And that was really appreciated. But at this, no one came again. But I think it's good to have it there in case
Yeah.
somebody needs it.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, that's great.
Yeah.
Okay, Walter has joined us. Is there anything else, Becky? We could, or do you want to just wait?
Why don't we wait till after
Okay.
Walter, Nikki?
Okay, great. Walter Tibbetts, our fire chief, has joined us and is unmuted. So thanks for coming tonight, Walter. I know
You're welcome.
What we wanted to do is talk to you about the future a little bit, and
Okay.
also, and that's probably top of my agenda, and Melissa and Eric, you can pipe in here too, and also just going forward, sort of what you envision as we go through a potential transition here.
Okay, well, to start off with, I have not officially done this yet for the town, but because I've been waiting to try to finalize things with Franklin County retirement, but I guess it's fair to say that my intentions are that at the end of this contract, which ends June 30th, 2022, that I am not seeking reemployment as fire chief for the town of Shutesbury and will retire from that position.
Okay, and
I did want to try to give you as much notice as possible. I was hoping to give you a year's notice, but I just didn't get my act together to have everything ready that I wanted to have ready before I officially made that decision. But I think it's time to just,
and will you have, I don't know with the details of the personnel policy, but will there be any accumulated leave time, or does that have to get used in the calendar year?
No.
No.
It does not have to get used. There should be some at the end of the year. There typically is, and I think Walter has accumulated some.
Yeah, so I just know it becomes an issue if people have a significant amount and you're anticipating leaving well before June 30th.
I do not believe that I will be utilizing that, at least in a lump sum fashion.
Okay.
I have underutilized all my vacation and sick time my entire career. I don't foresee in the last couple months bailing on the town in that close to the transition time.
Good. Well, we
Hopefully I'll
appreciate
be able
that.
to use some of that here and there along the way.
Mhm.
I'm not anticipating, taking 2 months off at the end of
Okay,
my contract just to use up the time.
Becky?
I just wanted to to review, the policy only allows for 1 year's carryover of vacation.
Oh,
So,
okay.
so the payouts and the accumulated amount is very controlled compared to some towns that have no limits.
Right, okay, I appreciate that.
To tell you the truth, I wasn't even factoring that in, utilizing it. I didn't know how it worked. I figured once I was done, that was it,
Mhm.
Is one of the options to pay that out? In other words, I know in my business, you could just pay it out. You didn't have to take the vacation, but you got the money.
Yeah,
Right.
possible?
Yes, we can pay it out. We can pay out whatever he has not used. That's
Correct.
Just
Okay.
part of the process.
I got it. Cool, that's good.
so this is my first go around on the select board with a significant hiring that the select board does. So Melissa, I don't know, maybe you can provide some guidance here about process, or, what your thoughts might be, or Eric, your thoughts about.
Well, so thinking about it, just quickly off the top of my head would be, look at the job description, because that could become the
Mhm.
job advertisement. right?
Mhm.
Or parts of it will become the job advertisement. And we'd have to decide, the three of us, what kind of position we'd like the chief position to be. You know,
Mhm.
like we have with the chief of police in past. What do we want this position to look like with Walter not sitting in that seat?
Right,
So that's some of the thoughts we have to go through.
yeah.
Yeah, it will be a significant change.
Yeah.
I've been chief now for, it was 26 years as of August 1st. So it's been a long time. This is my first go around in leaving a position like this too.
Right.
So, yeah, I've been involved in police chief searches and town administrator searches and all that. Never been involved, at least in this town, for fire chief searches. I have actually been involved and asked to be involved in other towns. But this is the first time I'm doing it for myself. So it's a little new to me too.
Becky, do you have?
I
some
was
thoughts?
just, I know prior select boards, when they thought about this issue, see it as a potential restructuring. And so that has to, I think you want to look at it very clearly and compare what our town to other towns, and look at where the major services are. It's heavy EMT work, and kind of go through all the data that Walter provided over the years. We have a couple years of that to look at and talk about what should be the best structure for Shutesbury moving forward. And to have Walter involved in that is really helpful. I think the select board might want to consider creating a committee that's not too large, but highly functional to look at this important issue.
So.
But that's
it would-
that's what occurred to me. It would be to create a search committee or, whatever, review of policy committee or however we want to call it.
So maybe do that prior to a search committee to kind of
Correct.
do a,
Yeah.
kind of an analysis and,
Kind of want to know what you're looking for before you start looking for it.
right,
And
yeah.
this is why I wanted to give the town as much
Uh-huh.
advance notice as possible, because it is or potentially going to be a major change.
Right,
And as there's changes made in the structure, there's also going to have to be other changes made in other aspects or functions or budget lines of the department to make up for some of that other stuff. So it is a big change.
yeah. So if we could undertake that this fall, I'd say, October, November, kind of get meeting, and then typically not much happens over the holidays, and be thinking, maybe come up with a calendar of sort of when we do that analysis, when the search committee gets, and when we do advertising, then the search committee. So if there's like a typical timeline, Becky, that you have, just in terms of, that would be really useful for us to for the select board to review. Does that make sense, Eric and Melissa?
I think it does to have a timeline is a good idea.
Yeah, and then have a define what the charge is for the for this kind of research group about the fire department, and then the search committee kind of defining who that's going to be and so forth. So that would be great, Becky, if you could put together a tentative schedule, and then maybe at our next meeting, if it's not too crazy, we can go through that, so we could kind of get the ball rolling for October, November.
Yeah, that would be great.
So Walter, one of the things that I assume will come up, and I had asked Becky today just about monthly reports, because I know that was something that that had been talked about in the past, and hasn't been, I don't think has been routinely done, but
Now,
certainly having data is going to be really important.
Yeah, I realized that I had stopped doing those for a while because it, honestly, it was thrown in the last contract. It was not anything we had done before. I started doing those and then I got a little behind, and it was reminded and I got caught up, and then I got a little behind again and nobody seemed to notice. And it was one of those things where it just kind of slipped off the table. And I take as much responsibility as anybody else for that. Becky has talked to me. I've assured her that I will try to get back in doing that. Just the end of last year and this year so far there's been a lot of other major projects going on with the whole new radio system and a few other things that have gone on that kind of, again, put it a little off to the side. I will try to be able to recreate a lot of that because it's documented. The reports were just, getting that information back together and putting it in, a concise form that, makes it easier to read. I can redo or, reconstruct most of that and put it back for most of the time, at least, of that they haven't been done. And that way you have something to compare. Every year does change a little bit. I've noticed, it just even our call volume has changed this last year with the COVID and all that, where people weren't out doing as much and people weren't calling for minor things because they didn't want to go to the hospital and be exposed. So things really changed in that aspect.
Walter, on those reports, can you just note that was during COVID and that there was changes in call volume for that reason?
Yeah, I mean, basically the reports, there's two reports I did. One was a report on the call, basically what they were, where they were, who showed up to them, how long the calls were. Obviously medical calls, we just say medical emergency because we can't reveal anything on HIPAA. Fire calls, we could do, we did it more intently, or, more detailed. Yeah. And then, for then the chief's activities, which was, going to meetings and different trainings and things like that, they should be able to create most of that, recreate most of that. Again, things have slowed down a little bit with COVID. There wasn't anywhere near as much in-person meetings, and a lot of meetings just stopped happening. So I should be able to read that and at least put in that during this time period, was because of COVID, the reduction in that.
Okay, that would be really helpful. And what do you think the timing is in terms of your being able to pull that together?
Realistically, if everything goes okay, probably within a month's time, month and a half. I mean, you've got like a year and a half, 2 years of those reports to put together. So it's going to take a little bit of going back into records.
Could we say September 30th, shoot for that, and that way then
we
if
can
we're
shoot-
trying to
we can
get
shoot.
started in.
Yeah, we can shoot for that. At least get caught up for the most part on them.
Okay. All right, great. Anything in particular that you want to tell us about the fire department today? I mean, how things are running and.
They're going relatively smoothly. I can, and I won't say for what reasons, but we had to let go one member just yesterday. So we're down to 10 right now. One of my firefighters is away at college. So technically we're down to 9 people in town for responding. Our call volume has been, it's a little bit less than we're at this point in time, a little bit less than it was last calendar year. Last calendar year in 2020, at this point, we had responded to 93 calls. This year, we're at 85 for the same given point in time. So we're down 8 calls from last year. That's very subjective because there are times where we'll go 2-3 weeks without a call, and then we'll have with 6 or 7, 8 calls in 1 week, depending on if it's storm related. There's all kinds of things that affect call volume. So I like to try to keep track of where we are from last year to this year, but you look at it kind of as the whole and where things are, how it averages out.
Yeah, and I think that's why it's good to have data over time, because you
Yep.
might have a 6-month period so if you're looking at only 6 months rather than 18 or 24 months, then
Yep.
it begins to be more
And
realistic.
even as you compile it, we, in the long term, the numbers are the same, but we used to do our reports on a fiscal year basis.
Mhm.
But all the state reporting and stuff that I have to file with the state is on a calendar year. So it made it confusing for a while, running half year on one, half year on the other. So
Mhm.
for all our reports, we number them according to calendar year. So
Okay,
and when you looked at them, sometimes you'd look at a fiscal year and the numbers would be really high on, or at one point, but if you looked at the calendar year, the numbers would be a lot lower or a lot higher, because it depended again on what 6 months you were looking at, or
Right.
which 6 months of a year you were combining. When you look at for the end of, at least a 12-month period, the numbers are easier to look at and say, okay, in the year we and it's just a few years ago, I think it was 3 years ago, possibly. We hit the highest number of calls we've ever done in a year. It was like 186 runs when we used to average 120. So that was a
Mhm.
big increase. Started going up quite a bit. It's been averaging now around, in 2019, it was 160. Last year was only 137. But like I said, once we hit into, started with some of the COVID,
It was lower.
yeah, it was, although the COVID really started in March, but I really don't know why that year was. I'd have to go back and look individually why that year was a little bit lower, but this year is a little bit less than that, but we're still on track for being, a somewhat average year, a little below average.
Melissa or Eric, any questions for Walter while we have him here?
No, but it just does seem that we've been very fortunate to have a sort of a robust fire chief, emergency management, whatever that. The question I would think would be, do we want that to still happen? I'm not saying we do or
Mhm.
don't. I'm not making any
Mhm.
value judgment about it, but if you look around to other towns, very few, if any, towns that I know of have the level of service that we've been very lucky to have with Walter. So that's just something that
Yeah.
I would just raise that question. That's all. I'm not
Yeah.
saying I'm in favor of doing anything, but
You will find that more of the smaller towns are starting to go with full-time chiefs. Ashfield, for one, just hired its first ever full-time fire chief.
well, there you go. I don't know that. So that's good
Yeah.
to know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that will be part of the analysis.
Yeah, I'm just
Would
saying
imagine.
that should just be looked at. That's all.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not
Yep.
saying
Oh,
anything
yeah.
about it. But
And yeah, I don't know if there's always the model that, Leverett was doing where they had, a part-time chief and a part-time assistant chief or deputy chief,
Mhm.
That shared the 40 hours, but between two different people.
Mhm.
There's a bunch of different models out there.
Yeah.
It's just what is available and what you want to support.
well, I know just like the police department, there's been talk of. I'm not saying I'm not saying it's a good thing. I don't know, but there's been talk of combining town departments or regionalizing things. I mean,
Yep.
this is again a transition
Always an
time. It
option.
might be time
Mhm.
to do that. If
That is
something
another trend right now. You have Joe Cuneo, who's the fire chief in both Wendell and New Salem. You have Dennis Anir, who is both Rowe and Charlemont. You've got Nick Anzoni, who is now Coleraine and Heath. So there is where some towns are combining one fire chief for two different towns. And like I said, then there's other ones that are going for their first full-time chiefs ever. So it depends on.
It's all over the map.
It's all over the map. It depends on what works for the town, the demographics, the areas that they're working in and all that. It's definitely.
Okay.
And the talent available.
And the talent available.
Right. That's right.
Yeah.
Right. That's yeah.
Yeah.
And
Okay,
I'm sure there'll be plenty of time for us to do this down the road, Walter, but thank you for all the work that you have done for the town.
yes,
And-
Yes,
absolutely.
The
definitely.
number of years that you have served us as chief.
Mhm.
I know I have felt comfortable with that, and I'm sure others have. So
I agree.
thank you
That's-
very much.
I will say this, it's not an easy decision. It has not been an easy decision to make, but
Imagine.
there are many, many factors involved and, I just got to that point where I said, I gotta make a decision one way or the other, and stick with it, so.
Life is short.
It does nobody good to be flip-flopping back and forth, so.
Right.
Yeah.
Don't skip
Yeah.
dessert, they say.
No, eat it first, actually.
While
Yeah,
you're still
life
young,
is short,
Walter.
eat dessert first, yeah.
Eat
Right, that's
dessert
right.
first.
Yeah.
It's my motto. Yes, well, thank you, Walter, and I'm sure we'll have lots of
Mhm.
opportunities to
Yep.
thank you for your service upcoming in this next year. So, so the plan is that Becky will pull together a calendar for us, and the select board can just review that and make any edits and vote that that's the way we want to move forward, and we'll do that. If we can at our next meeting is the 15th, right? The 14th.
Yeah, I guess.
14th.
The 14th is a Monday, 15th is a Tuesday.
No,
Oh,
Is that
15th.
correct?
No,
Sorry
No,
about that.
14th is a Tuesday.
14th is a
14th of
Tuesday.
September is a Tuesday.
Oh, I'm coming home on the 13th then. I was thinking, okay, all right,
Oh, good. Oh, that's
good,
better.
yes, yeah.
We'll
so
plan a
the-
nice, long meeting then.
She'll be
Um,
rested.
Oh, yeah,
That's
oh,
right.
yeah. I have to take care of my grandson, real.
Yeah, right.
I know his parents
Right.
just told us, oh, we're going away for a few days. I'm like,
Oh, good.
okay.
And they're taking the
for
kid,
it.
I'm sure.
No, they're not taking the kid, leaving.
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah, that's okay. We'll have fun. All right, great. So.
But just one thing to just reiterate, just as, some of the last projects I'm trying to get done and just fill you in on where they are. Kind of covered this in the emergency management team meeting, but the new radio system, at least for Shutesbury, is working very well, both on the police and fire. It was well worth the 2 years that we invested in and all the time and the planning and all that to get it done, and it's worked out very well. The last project that I want to see completed is the paving of the fire station. I've been talking with Tim and Becky about that today. I just went through all the specifications and wrote those. I'm going to have Tim check them out tomorrow morning. Then we're going to forward them to Becky, and hopefully we can get that process going so we can see where we are, what prices are, bids come in, and what we may need to add to the money that we've set aside for this, and finally get this taken care of before I leave. Those are the two things I said I definitely want to see done, is the new radios in and
The paving done. And
Yep.
the paving, Becky, is it money set aside in one of those reserve funds? That was specifically,
there's a capital.
There was
fund that was
Capital.
voted.
okay.
I think it's 25,000 is there,
Yes.
Walter?
Mhm,
Yeah, 25,000, yeah.
okay.
It was put aside, 5 years ago, 4 or
It
5
was a while ago.
Maybe
Yeah.
6?
Yeah, it could be. It's a while ago. So, unfortunately, I'm sure prices have gone up in that aspect. We're trying to do everything we can to keep the prices lower. Highway's going to be doing a lot of the prep work. And then it's just for the actual paving. So hopefully we're not too far over what we had set aside several years ago. We'll see how that comes out.
Okay, great. Yeah, keep us posted. I assume you'd go to the finance committee for any additional.
Yeah, once we figure that out, yeah,
Okay.
with Becky, and we would go to them to cover whatever would be above and beyond what we said.
Mhm. Okay, good. Melissa, Eric, anything else?
I'm good.
Okay, I think I'm good too. Well, thank you, Walter. We really
welcome.
appreciate your time, and we'll be talking.
All right, thank you.
Thanks,
All
Walter.
right. Good night.
Yeah, good night.
Bye.
Good to see you.
All right.
Okay, so Becky, we'll just get back to you. Is there any other updates that you want to share with us?
Yes, I had a conversation with Kristen Burgess, who had some updates on the post information, the new systems and requirements for police officers, especially concerning her Bridge Academy. And it's the one thing that is clear from reading the new regs that are not yet complete, but they're getting close, that Kristen is fully qualified to participate. Not everyone in the department is 100% qualified at this point, but Kristen definitely is. They have introduced a length of experience as one of the requirements in becoming, going through the bridge for the full-time accreditation. And you won't receive the full-time accreditation, even if you do all the other elements of the training, until you've been on board, I think, 4 or 5 years.
As a police
so-
officer?
As a police officer.
Okay,
So that'll have an interesting impact on our part-timers and their ability to work full-time until they meet all the requirements. But the good news is that Kristen is on the right path to move forward, and they're talking about starting the academies in October. They haven't set a date yet, and there's no, the application process hasn't fully started, but Kristen's preparing and making sure all her paperwork is in order to start the post academy for full time. The second thing that the post information impacts is the union contract. I have to go through some of the questions we had, but I think we're close to having the information to finishing the contract. And so that should be coming back to you as soon as the committee meets again and reviews the outstanding issues on the contract. So I'll be calling Melissa and Bob and wrapping that up hopefully in the next couple of weeks too.
okay. And I just had a clarification. I know in the past when we talked about people going to the academy, they left town and we didn't see them for a number of months, but that's not the case with Kristen, as I understand it.
Correct. I think there will be maybe 2 or 3 weeks that they will do like the EVOC training with vehicles. They're going to do that. It has to be done in person. And there's another segment that they reduced, maybe the reduced physical part. But I will get all the information from Kristen or ask her to report on it as it solidifies. But we should expect, I think it's 200 hours of training, and a lot of it can be done online. So how she'll need, what time she'll need to schedule that and how she'll handle it. And she's working on a proposal of how that will work.
Okay,
But
great.
we can expect her to be around for the majority of the time, fulfilling at least some of her other, the essential other duties she now has.
Great. Good.
Yeah, it's a real break for the town.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any questions on any of that, Eric or Melissa?
Yeah, my only question would be, maybe it leads into the next question, is like, we're talking about the COVID policy last time, and I was
Right.
wondering, and Becky mentioned union contracts, which made me think, well, is that part of, I don't know, maybe, well, I just throw that out there, that's all. That's a,
Yes, I've had one discussion about that with one of the police officers. So we'll see where it goes. And I will have the COVID policy finalized for the next meeting.
Okay. So,
have you had a chance to talk to Donna about that or no?
I called, because Brian Mazur's specialty is in labor, I emailed Brian and outlined the major issues. And the major issue is whether the town can require the vaccine. And his answer was generally yes. There are some pitfalls in doing it, or things you want to consider before you vote to do it. But he said definitely at this point in time, because of the FDA approval of the Pfizer vaccine, it is allowable. It's
And that
just
would be true for all employees, you know, all school, everybody employees, or just how would we do that? Is it true for
Well, the
everybody?
school, it would be true. Well, it depends on the policy you make. You know, it's allowable to require it. The school falls under their union contract, which had been negotiated, including COVID issues that were, you know, there was a separate COVID MOU that the school negotiated, and maybe we should approach it that way with our employees, the majority of whom are not union. But just, I think having the policy in place, the biggest concern is if anyone in the end decides to resign because of it, you really, that could be a problem, because we have such limited staff that every person is essential. So that's the one fallout that is a real concern. I think there's enough, if you build enough, you know, if you don't take the vaccine, and have a list of requirements whenever they're sick or exposed, and if the select board approved those, you know, those other paths to make sure that even if they didn't take the vaccine, that everyone else was safe. I think there are some workarounds, and I think that's what Brian was talking about, making sure that you don't lose essential personnel.
So
It's a
Well,
little bit
you'll
more
lose them if they're in the hospital because they
Yeah.
weren't vaccinated. That's all
Yeah.
I'm saying.
there are
Yep.
people in the ICU at Cooley Dick. Maggie was just there today, so it's getting COVID. Yeah, and young people too. Some of them, so.
Anyway, we'll talk
Word
about
to the
that. I
wise,
didn't mean
yeah.
to derail the conversation, but the union
No, that's
contract thing
important.
Yeah, no, it
Made
is.
it-
And if you could,
came up in my mind.
yeah, if you could share that part of the contract, that MOU, that would be great. Can you
That
do
the
that?
teachers have?
Yeah, just so we can see it.
Okay.
So we have LWAC on the 14th. And then would we be doing this policy on the 14th too? But
Yep.
we'd have it in advance.
Yep.
Draft in advance. Yeah, okay. Okay, good. Thanks for reminding us of that, Eric.
Yep. Thank you, Eric.
Okay.
And other than that, my last update is Linda is on vacation this week, but graciously is doing the minutes tonight. And as you all are aware, I'm going to be in Philadelphia. I'll be attending to a number of things, but not everything, since I'm out of the office, and I'm spending time playing with my 5-year-old grandson. So
Yay.
he just
Good.
started kindergarten yesterday.
Both of you, much deserved and much needed. break.
Yes, absolutely.
really.
Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely.
Enjoy it, yes.
I
Um,
certainly will. I'm really looking forward to seeing him.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah.
Linda?
Yeah, I have two tiny quick things. One, I want to let you know that it's the time of year that on the 9th of September, I'll be attending a virtual update with ABCC on, local licensing authority, things, items.
Yeah,
And
it feels like we just did all that.
I know. This last round with the SAC was the longest and most
Yeah.
complicated one, So
Yeah.
anyway, I just want you to know I'm going. And
Okay,
then
great.
I also want to remind you that newsletter articles are due to Janice by the 17th.
Oh,
So
great.
you might want to think about who might want to draft something up.
So typically it's been a member of the select board that's done it.
in the last while, someone from the select board has initiated a draft, and then the other members kind of collectively add to it. Right, Becky?
Okay.
I can take a
that's not far
stab
away.
at it.
Oh, yay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Melissa.
That's a
Excellent,
stab.
Melissa.
Really, I was hoping somebody would.
It might be
step
a
right up and say,
bulletin
"Waiting to
article."
do this."
It might be short this year, but that's okay.
That's okay.
No, that's awesome, Melissa. Thank you.
Great. Yes, thank you.
Okay.
We appreciate that. All
This
right.
was that the newsletter or the annual report one?
Well, there are both things, but the most timely one is the newsletter because Janice needs them by the 17th.
Okay.
Yes, thank you. Yeah.
And the annual report has traditionally been done by the chair.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll make a note of that.
Yeah.
And that is due
I will
by
do the annual
by the
report.
end of December, Rita.
And is it calendar year or is it?
It is
fiscal?
fiscal year, so it would
Oh,
be
yeah.
FY 21. Yes,
Okay,
FY 21.
okay.
Yep.
All right, I'll make mine. All right. Okay, good. So the last thing that, yeah, go ahead.
No, I just wanted to mention I'll be sending out some background information on LWAC this coming week prior to our next meeting as a little homework assignment. Please make sure to review it. It's interesting. It's kind of a challenge. Responding to LWAC's request for a storm water committee is an interesting concept. Eric, I'll share with you Donna's response to forming that committee. And also, I've got historical documents about the original formation of LWAC, in which they had a different charge than they seem to be fulfilling at this point. So I just want to make sure everybody looks at that prior to the meeting for a discussion. I'll be sending it to Mark Rivers as well.
Well, I know from the last LWAC meeting, I know that the LWAC's charge is not completely clear to LWAC. So that's probably a good idea to clarify that, is I guess would be what I'd say
Yeah.
about that. But I would say, you said you'd send it to me. I would send that information to everybody who anybody. I'd like to, I think everyone should see Donna's response and so forth, because that's going to be crucial.
Oh, the reason I was saying it to you, it's already was shared with LWAC by April. The rest of the select board already was aware of it because it happened last year.
Oh, okay,
And
okay, I'm with you.
you weren't here, so I wanted to make sure you had that
Okay,
information.
cool. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yep.
Okay, good. So we have minutes.
No, because I wasn't going to be here, so Becky didn't put them on the agenda.
Oh, okay. So it said review select board minutes of 8:25. Oh, at 9:14 meeting. Okay. I was like, what does that mean? Okay, good. All right. Great. So anything else that? Okay, so do I hear we'll have a meeting on the 14th, and do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Okay, second.
Okay, all those in favor? Farrell, aye.
Makepeace O'Neill, aye.
Stalker, aye.
Great. Thanks, everyone. We'll
Thank
see in
you.
a couple of
Okay.
weeks.
Okay.
Okay.
Put this
have
one
a
in the
good-
books. This is a record, shortest meeting ever. It's got to be a record.
Yeah. Becky, have a great time, and Linda, have a great rest of your vacation.
Yes,
you.
bye.
Thank you.
Good night.
Yeah.
Bye.
Take care.
Everybody have
Thank
a
you.
good week or two. Happy
Thank you
Labor
too.
Day.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll try. Thank you.
Bye.